Well, I guess it's that time again. Time to take a look at another smartwatch. This is the CMF Watch Pro 2, a budget branded watch from the Nothing Company. This was the first Nothing or CMF product I've ever owned, so I was very curious to see what it would be like. The box is a little bit larger and cheaper feeling than even the Tozo watch I took a look at in a previous video, which kind of surprised me, but obviously that doesn't affect the experience. After getting the watch out of the box and connecting the strap, all I had to do was install the CMF Watch app and follow the simple steps to connecting the watch to my Pixel 8 Pro. Due to many of the negative reviews I've read, I was expecting this to be complicated and time-consuming, but I was pleasantly surprised. There were zero issues getting it up and running, and even the firmware update only took a couple of minutes to complete. Let's change gears for a minute and talk design, because this thing's got some unique style and I really like it. Unlike the majority of budget watches, this isn't just another Apple Watch clone. It's very clean and minimal, but also stands out just enough to catch some people's attention, if for no other reason, just because it's different than most any other watch. The Pro 2 comes in 4 different color options: dark gray, ash gray, blue, and orange. Orange being the one I picked up because it's the most unique, or at least in my opinion. Customization is also a big thing with this watch. Not only can you swap out the watch bands, but also the bezel, which is cool, but there's a big catch. Officially, there are only 2 bands you can purchase from the CMF website. Of course, you can find other unofficial bands, but I'd like to at least be able to purchase the dark gray or ash gray bands on their own without needing to purchase a whole new watch. And remember when I said you can also swap out the face bezel? Yeah, well, they only sell the rounded bezel, which is what you'll be getting anyway when you purchase either the blue or orange watch. If you purchase the dark gray or ash gray watch, it comes with a flat bezel, but you can't buy the flat bezel on its own. I did end up just purchasing a random black band on Amazon because I think it fits my style a little bit more than the orange. And yeah, it works fine, but I just wish CMF sold other bands and bezels. Speaking of customization, let's talk watch faces. You can't add your own or install extra watch faces, so you'll be limited to what's in the CMF Watch app, but that's not really a problem since there are enough watch faces to keep most people happy. You can kind of make your own watch face with a custom photo background and digital clock style, color, and position. It's pretty limited with what you can really do though, despite the claim that Apple Watch users can only look on enviously. Yeah, I somehow don't think so, but anyway, disappointing customization options aside, battery life was also slightly disappointing. Not because it's bad at all, but look, on the box and on their website it claims up to 11 days of battery life, which I think anyone who's used this watch will tell you that's not exactly true. Personally, I really don't care. While using sleep tracking and having the always on display enabled, I got about 3 to 4 days, which is plenty for me, and enough that I never ended up accidentally running this battery all the way down. What frustrates me about this battery life though, is that this so-called smartwatch is really just a glorified fitness tracker. We'll talk about that stuff in a second. But first, no apps. Just like watch faces, you're stuck with very limited apps that you get with the watch, so it doesn't really feel like a full smartwatch. Just imagine a smartphone that won't let you install apps. It wouldn't really be a smartphone anymore. Add to that no contactless payment, wireless charging, or really any of the expected smartwatch apps, and this is one underpowered smartwatch. To top it all off, the way notifications are handled, it's not great. I will say I don't think I have ever missed a notification on this watch, so at least it's mostly reliable as long as the CMF Watch app is running on your phone. But it is still pretty clumsy. You can't swipe away notifications or really interact with them in any way. You can respond to text messages from a selection of preset replies, and that's about it. You can add your own quick replies in the CMF Watch app, but even then there are limitations, like the only preset message replies that I would probably use would just be a simple emoji. But the watch doesn't support emojis, so there goes that. Also, the haptic feedback in this watch is pretty sad. One thing that I really do like about these notifications on this watch is that you can easily select which apps you do and don't want to see notifications from. A lifesaver for someone like me who's picky about what notifications I want to get bombarded by on my wrist. Alright, let's talk features. For the non-fitness and health tracking stuff, we've got the basics like a world clock, stopwatch, timer, alarm, calendar, and calculator. Still not unique to this watch, but useful nonetheless. We've got a flashlight, which simply lights up the display at full brightness, with a couple different color options for some reason. Since the display on this watch gets decently bright, I actually have found this feature very useful, so thumbs up for that. Another app that works just as it should is the Find My Phone app, which works even when your phone is in silent mode. Double thumbs up for that. Voice Assistant is an app that technically works, but is kind of flawed. Basically, all this app can do is launch the default voice assistant on your phone and uses the watch's microphone and speaker to relay audio to and from the phone. This means that there's no visual feedback on the watch, and if your phone is in silent mode, you won't hear anything. And since you can't see anything in the watch, it's as if it's not working. And sometimes it's really not working. I found that occasionally hitting the tap to wake simply does nothing, or the phone wakes up, it doesn't start listening. That may be something on the phone's end. I was only using Google Assistant. I did not try it with an iPhone or any other device, but I really just don't like the way this works. The only upside to this implementation of a voice assistant is that since it's handled entirely on the phone, it's basically just like talking to the existing voice assistant on your phone without any need to set anything up, change settings, or log into anything. Also, it doesn't rely on any processing from the watch itself, so given that you have a quick enough phone, there will be no extra delays in processing and response times. One app that slightly disappoints me is the weather app. Not that I'd check the weather on my watch a whole lot, but the weather sources seem to be a little inaccurate, and it only seems to update weather randomly on its own time. Like, where in the world is it getting this? Not an app, but still pretty cool, are the quick gestures. These can be triggered by either quickly rotating or shaking your wrist, and can be set to perform almost any action or open any app you might need. Since math is my worst enemy, I set a quick rotation of the wrist to launch the calculator app, which is pretty handy. It has actually worked every time, and that I know of, it's never been triggered accidentally. The only annoyance here is the significant delay between the time I trigger a gesture and when it actually gets around to performing an action. Sometimes it takes close to 5 seconds to actually do it, and by that time, I'm wondering if it even recognized the gesture at all. Last but not least is the phone call app. And yes, this watch can make and receive calls over Bluetooth through your phone. Just make sure to enable call reminder in the CMF Watch app first before you can receive calls on the watch. For some reason, this is disabled by default, so just make sure to enable that first so you don't miss any calls. CMF claims that this watch is equipped with an AI noise reduction algorithm, whatever that means. I haven't really used the phone call feature much, but the 1 or 2 phone calls I did make went surprisingly well. People I talked to could clearly understand me, and the speaker in this watch was good enough that I could easily hear what was being said on the other end. I don't really think that AI noise reduction algorithm is actually doing much, and phone calls on this watch aren't anything special, but I definitely can't complain about phone calls on the Pro 2. Now it's time to talk health and activity tracking stuff. This is one of the main reasons many people even get a smartwatch, so finding one that does a good job of tracking that kind of information can make or break the experience for some people. I am not, however, one of those people who finds this information very valuable, so just be warned, I really don't care much, and my opinion might be a little bit different from the average smartwatch owner. That being said, I do find the sleep tracking pretty interesting, maybe a little unreliable. Check out this video by the Quantified Scientist for some more detailed analysis. But sleep times at least seem pretty consistent and accurate, giving me a better idea of just how messed up my sleep schedule really is. The more detailed sleep reports are, from what I've seen, not quite as accurate or reliable, but for me, I really don't care. Step tracking is also slightly untrustworthy if you really care about the exact number of steps you take. For me, I just found it handy to get a rough idea of the time and distance I walked, and not really whether or not I obtained a certain number of steps or whatever. Honestly, I'm not really a very active person, so I've barely touched any activity tracking this watch can supposedly support. Heart rate, blood oxygen, stress levels, these are all things the watch can also measure, but again, aside from the 1 or 2 times I played with them out of curiosity, I never felt compelled to check any of this stuff, partially because I know that the heart rate tracking at least is not very accurate. One thing this watch did constantly that was a little annoying was automatic exercise detection. It randomly thinks I'm riding a bike when I'm driving, or even when I just move too quickly. You can turn this automatic exercise detection off, which I would recommend since it barely makes good suggestions even when you would actually want it to. And you know, this is kind of distracting when you're trying to drive. Another annoying bug with this watch is that it fails to get a GPS signal almost every time I try to track an outdoor walk. It does eventually pick up the signal and seems to work fine after that, but it's still a little annoying. Also annoying is the CMF Watch app itself. It's slow and crashes when trying to look through health data, but fortunately for me, I can sync all the watch's health data to the Google Fit app, which works a lot better, although some data is missing since this watch doesn't collect super detailed health info. To summarize my health and fitness tracking experience, I honestly didn't use it all that much. I tracked some walks and sleep, and that's about it. I really have no way of saying how accurate or useful this data really is, so I can't have an informed opinion on this topic. If you need highly accurate health data from your smartwatch, this watch probably isn't for you. But if you're someone like me who really doesn't care all that much, I think this watch does what it needs to. And I'd say that goes for the rest of the CMF Watch Pro 2 experience. Someone who's used almost any other mainstream smartwatch will probably find this a little underwhelming. But if you're just looking for a watch with a few smart features sprinkled in, the Pro 2's got you covered. And here's the thing, the CMF Watch Pro 2 cost $69 at the time of this recording, which I think we can all agree for a smartwatch is a pretty nice price. And it kind of puts this watch in a category all by itself. Despite the promises of customization that doesn't really exist, and battery life that you'll probably never see, you'd have to pay a good bit more to get anything better than this. Sure, it might seem like my opinion of this watch was overall not very positive, but really, I just don't wear watches much, especially smartwatches that aren't very smart. But if you've watched this and other videos reviewing this watch and you know exactly what you're getting into, I think the CMF Watch Pro 2 is one of your best options. It's a watch that can do all the basic stuff for an unbeatable price, all while looking far nicer than the competition. In summary, I bought a $69 smartwatch and, well, I got a $69 smartwatch. Other than the design, which I still particularly like for its unique aesthetic, there were really no surprises here, good or bad. And you know, that's really not a bad thing. I honestly don't know how long I'm going to continue wearing this watch. I'll probably eventually forget about it altogether, but I can say of all the smartwatches I've ever owned, this one has been really good and I have no complaints big enough to make me regret purchasing this watch. And hey, if you've watched this far in the video, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of the channel. If you're new here, I make all kinds of videos about tech stuff, both new and old, and if you like what you see here, it'd be great if you could hit the thumbs up button, and while you're down there, also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.